Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. Not quite the weekend I think we'd all been planning on the Devon Riviera. Have you recovered yet? For those who went, one Notts fan I know had a selfie taken with Torquay boss Gary Johnston over breakfast. There you go. Your thoughts on the performance? I know that our guest tonight, Mark Stallard, was quite scathing of the 90 minutes. First time I think we've conceded 5 in the National League. You could argue it's our worst ever result in the lowest standard of football we've ever been playing in. A blip, or is it something a little bit more deep-rooted for you? We'll be assessing and discussing that tonight. Ian Birchnell pulled no punches with his post-match assessment, very scathing of the players. On our hot topics list this evening, Kells Roberts, would you bring him back into the fold for Kings Lynn on Friday? And with 7 games to go of the season, do you think we're a better bet for promotion than at a comparable stage last year? Lots and lots to discuss, but I've got an admission to make before we go to you, Stel. I've got to say, you've got to blame me a little bit in part for the result, because I missed a golden chance to sort out Connor Lemon-Evans. And it is arguable I was closer to him than most of our back four on Saturday. I was minding my own business, having breakfast at Mr. and Mrs. Jones in the very, very nice Wellswood district of Torquay. And I looked up, and there in the corner was Kyle Cameron. Kyle had come down separately. He used to be at Torquay, so waved to him. And I saw at first this back view, and I thought it was Vinny. I went over for a chat, and he had the Torquay tracksuit on, and it was Connor Lemon-Evans. So we're having a good chat. And clearly what I should have done would have slipped something into his coffee stell. And that might have quietened him down a bit, because he was a bit of a thorn in our side on Saturday, wasn't it? So hands up, I'll own up to that one. And we'll see also one of our flock who posed for a photograph asked for a selfie with Gary Johnson over breakfast on the morning of the game. We'll see if that person fesses up to that one. Right. That's about as light-hearted as it gets, Stel. Full marks. You did 500 miles in a day, didn't you, there and back? So you could play your five-a-side on a Friday night. Hey, well done. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, well, I say Charlie's got family down there, that part of the world. So he went down, made a weekend of it with his family, his missus and kids, and fair play to him for that. So I knew I was doing it on my own. It was a choice of, do I want to spend a Friday night down there and miss me five-a-side and be on my own in a hotel room? I thought, well, no, I'll be able to drive early Saturday morning, which is what I did, and it was fine. The roads were fine. Unfortunately, we had to suffer the game in the meantime and do the journey back. But as did all the fans, and I mean, it spoiled weekends, as football results do. But performances like we had Saturday, they spoil weekends. They used to be horrible when you played, and it happens. It's not much better, not much easier now when you're watching. So a horrible weekend. And you say I was scathing, the manager was scathing. It was a performance to be scathing about, and I'm sure the fans had some fairly scathing comments as well.
Yeah, I mean, Torquay, April, it's a decent time to play them. And I think there were so many reunions and old Notts players coming along. John Sims from my era met up, I know, with a few Notts fans. People, there were some Notts fans I know from Cornwall coming up. And it was quite like a communal gathering, quite a nice convivial atmosphere, 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, depending how long you were out there. I went and met John Turner, ex-Derby County apprentice, Stel, even before your time, who, in my first job covering Peterborough United, was the Peterborough United goalkeeper in the 1980s. He was an apprentice under Brian Clough at Derby, and he does all the bars and everything. So I saw him for the first time in 38 years. Kev Nicholson, obviously, was down there as well, who we both know.
I text Nico. I texted Nico, Paul, he wasn't at the game. I texted him on the day of the game to see whether he was going to be there. He wasn't there. He didn't come.
Yeah,
he was down at Portsmouth with the Exeter Academy lads, I think.
Yes, that's right. So let's get a few thoughts. Chris Gosling says, evening all, don't actually know what to say after Saturday. Really didn't see that coming. Gary Wardle. Saturday's always been a possibility. It's what not do. Chris Jordan, evening all. Paul Huskerson, I feel sorry for the supporters, including myself, who made a 450-mile round trip journey. Gary Wardle, live long, been tired of empty words after Saturday. Hopefully more will accept only results, not performances. And the Eason, boy, oh boy, where do we start? A lot of disgruntled fans who made the long trip down for not only the day, but in ours and many other cases, a long weekend. Harvey Howe. Hey, Paul, a bit concerned for Friday. Hopefully we don't underestimate Kings Lynn. They're fighting for survival, and games like these can always cause an upset. Plus, they are in a good run of form. Hopefully last week's game wakes a few of these players up, and we realise that we don't have the right to be in the playoffs. We have got to earn it. Stephen Orton, good evening, everyone. Max Seth, evening all. I went on Saturday, and that's got to be the worst performance since our relegation. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm struggling to think of too much that's worse. Very interested. I'd actually say I think the only worst performance off the top of my head, we'll throw it out to everyone. I think the only worst performance I can think of was Harrogate in the playoff trophy final, when I thought, collectively we just didn't turn up, and given what was at stake, I thought that was incredibly disappointing. Worst performance for you, everyone, or not? Very interested to see IB team selection on Friday, says Maxa. We'll be picking that up very shortly. Gary Wardle, Kells should never have been out of the fold. More comments. David Shorter. IB has to go with what he believes to be our best 11, and we need to get behind him and the team. We do, though, need to start aggressively on the front foot. Gary Wardle not buying this, not changing a winning side purely because IB has not been consistent on it. Favourites always get exceptions. Steve Fletcher, we got 70 points to get fifth last year. I feel we need high 70s to do it this time. Yeah, one thing on that comparison, which I know we'll be discussing later, it was only 42 games, not 44 that we'll be playing this season. Kay says how Kell wasn't even on the subs bench is beyond me. John Parr, no better off than last season, 3 points more, but seemed well off winning the playoffs. COVID season was not his best chance of getting back up. Not now. You need a new manager. Say Gary Johnson, then a whole new team. Say Torquay United squad. You could maybe keep Cameron, Naman, Owen, Vincent. Something tells me that might be a Torquay interloper. Still, Saturday. We all know we can glibly describe these as bad days at the office, that sort of thing. Is that kind of a one-off blip for you? Or given where we are in the season, do you read a few more undercurrents into it?
I hope it's a one-off blip. The players will certainly hope it is, and the manager will. It was a horrible performance. To answer the question you said, I think that's the worst performance I can remember since we've got relegated. And I remember the playoff final, which was a poor performance. But given the opposition, given the everything, Saturday was awful. Is it a one? You're right. You can glibly dismiss anything, can't we? We can just call it a bad day at the office, which it was. A horrific day at the office where nobody came out of it with any credit. Nobody did themselves any favors. The manner of it was what I just didn't like. And is it just a one-off? Well, no, because there's been sort of examples, maybe not over 90 minutes, over 90 minutes on Saturday, pretty much, barring a decent sort of, or decent-ish 20 minutes in the second half after the damage has been done. We just didn't play anywhere near the levels, didn't compete, got out-fought, outrun, outworked, out-hustled, out everything, all over the pitch. So it was terrible in that respect for me. But there's been maybe 20 minutes here, 45 minutes there, at times during the season where, and I come back to this saying that we are too nice as a team. And it's a susceptibility that I think happens or can happen in modern football and modern football teams that are so possession-based, looking to pass the ball, looking to be nice in possession, that when you lose the ball, you have to be nasty out of possession to go and get it back. The Liverpool-Man City game yesterday was obviously fresh in our minds. We saw it and whatever. Good teams are nice in possession of the ball, but not nice out of possession. They go and get the ball back as quickly as they can. And just Notts against, on a much lower level, obviously against Torquay, they were nice out of possession of the ball. Torquay roughed them up a little bit, bullied them in areas of the pitch, showed more determination and drive in areas of the pitch, won all the individual battles, all of them across the pitch. And, it just was nowhere near the level. Now, does that mean that that's going to impact things going forward? I hope it does, but in a positive way. And Ian Birchnell alluded to it after the game. It's not just a case of we comp and put it, bad day at the office, forget about it. It's no, this is what happens when we all think everything's going to be a little bit easy. We just need to turn up and do it. So you need to use that as your sort of motivation for the next 7 games, because they're all games where we, everybody on the outside can look at it and go, we should go and win this. We should go and win this quite easily, convincingly. We're the better team. We've got better players. But Saturday shows that if you're not right mentally, or you don't perform, you don't win your individual battles, you don't have the drive, the desire, the determination, and the quality, then anybody can beat you. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what the name is above the door, what the name on the back of the shirt is, or who it is. If you are not right, then you can get done. And that's what happened Saturday. We were way off it, way off it. But again, the puzzle, or the bit I said at the end of the game, I think still stands, is from the week before at Southend, everyone's fine, everything's great away performance, Ruben's hat-trick. Nobody was sort of suggesting any changes. Same team, same subs named. Nobody's going, well, that's a strange decision. You want the same performance away from home against a team that's also lurking sort of 11th, 12th in the table, similar to Southend were, and you get a night and day performance from one week to the next. There's no excuse of a Tuesday game. There's no mitigating factors other than the peaks and the troughs and the inconsistencies of footballers at lower levels that you get. You don't get consistency from one week to the next. And it, you look at it, and now everyone will clamour for Cal to come back in, of course, and one or two others. There could be numerous changes for Friday, and anybody that played last weekend has got no cause for complaint whatsoever. So, it's hopefully a blip, a bad day at the office, but they've got to use that to show them for the rest of the season that if you don't turn up, if you are not right at it, if you've not got that hunger to go and hurt yourself, to go and push yourself, to go and win them individual battles, to go and be better than the opposition, then this is what will happen. And if this happens again between now and the end of the season, well, then playoffs aren't a foregone conclusion.
Sometimes you find it hard, don't you, Stel, for whatever reason, to play against certain teams. And sometimes certain managers have a bit of a sign on you. And I think Gary Johnson down the years and Notts County are not necessarily ideal bedfellows from his time at Yeovil and other clubs and all the rest of it. And for me, if you think back, we weren't able to watch it on screen because we couldn't go. Torquay last year, they played a certain way. Yeah. You could argue they bullied us a bit. Everyone wants to execute their game plan. They're the buzz phrases, aren't they? And I cannot not believe that Notts did not know exactly what Gary Johnson and Torquay were going to do. The long diagonals, pick the second balls up and stick a press on, right? I cannot believe Notts did not know exactly what was going to happen. Yet they seem so kind of, I don't know, unprepared. Unprepared is not the right word, but whatever game plan Notts were supposedly executing, they appeared to be collectively a long way off it.
Yeah, and I agree. And absolutely, there is not a chance that Notts were not prepared for it, that Notts were caught by surprise, with all the analysis tools that are available at all clubs now, and the research and the scouting that is done. nobody's really caught by surprise our team plays. So they are not prepared is not an excuse at all. And again, this is why I tend to a lot of times look at the players. Rightly, I give the players a load of credit when they're playing well, and they've played some fantastic stuff this season. But likewise, I'm not then going to start looking elsewhere for excuses when it goes wrong. You've got to look at the players. They've been prepared absolutely perfectly well. They've had all week on the training ground. They should be confident coming off a win at Southend, confident because of the run that they were on, 10 points from 12 going into the game, confident because they are good players and where they are in the league, and confident and driven and motivated because of the prize that could await them at the end of the season, given that the running that they've got pre the Torquay game, given that, hey, if we go and put a good run together, we can finish third in the table. So that's the motivation, to make sure we beat Torquay today, because this is our toughest game. It's the only one we've got to deal with because it's today. It's right in front of us. The players have got no excuses. So unfortunately, when you get a performance like that, when you get done 5 anywhere, you've got no excuses. You've got no excuses. You've been done. It's 11 v 11. Torquay have been prepared to play Notts, just like Notts have been prepared to play Torquay. Gary Johnson, Ian Bircham will make no odds about it. They'll both have prepared their team. Torquay will have known what Notts would try to do. Notts knew what Torquay were going to try and do. The fact of the matter is, the 11 against 11, Torquay's 11 battered our 11. And there's no other word for it. They battered our 11 on Saturday. Doesn't make them a better team, better players, but on Saturday, when it matters, that's when you do your job. That's when you earn your corn as a footballer. And on Saturday, thankfully, it's a rare occasion, but our players got battered and came off second best all over.
Plenty of comments tonight. Chris Jordan, I suspect I'm an outlier, but I'm hoping that drubbing was exactly the lesson we needed about complacency, and that we'll not see it like again this season. We certainly hope not, Chris. Alan Cotty, thank goodness we only had a relatively short journey from Dorset of 75 miles each way. We allowed ourselves to be bullied out of the game. Need to learn from it. Would like to see Kell back against Kings Lynn. Chris Gosling, the defence had looked so strong in previous 4 games, but I reckon my 8-year-old lad could have run through that back 5 on Saturday. Max Seth, regards worst games in the National League. Barrow at home in the first season, we lost 3-0. Yeah, I do remember that. That's when Rooney ran the show, wasn't it? If I remember right.
Yeah, still not
or
bad.
the last 20 minutes against Woking this year, but I think Saturday beats them for the worst overall game. Gary Wardle, that kind of lesson should not be needed by now, and such a performance should not even be imaginable. Andy Eason, to be outgunned in every department as badly as we were is simply unacceptable. Steph Milek, mentality over pretty football at this stage. Results are the only thing that matters. Chris Gosling, I'd be shocked if Sam Graham doesn't start on Friday. Andy Eason, the best comment I saw regards Kell. Why would a general go into battle with his tanks and think it okay to leave his artillery behind? Nigel Cameron, how many times have we tried to paper over the cracks? The squad simply isn't good enough at what they do. Max Seth, I've looked at the goals again, and why Adam Chickson doesn't clear the ball with his right foot baffles me. It frustrates me that a professional footballer can't use their weaker foot. Trevor Scanlon, the problem is that on Saturday, it wasn't just 1 or 2 players that didn't turn up, it was the whole team. The question is why? Ballum, greetings, Ballum from down London way. Kings Lynn will be difficult as they are fighting to stay up. Will be tricky, but Notts will need to win. Colin Metcalf, personally, I couldn't care less what style we play if we win. If we win, I leave happy. If we lose, I'm miserable. Under Nolan teams hated playing us, and I loved it. We need more of that in this league. Gary Wardle, what would everyone prefer? 8 grafters and 3 flair, or 8 flair and 3 grafters? There lies Notts' issues. Simple. Pythagorean, agree with Paul and Stell. Torquay's game plan, same as the playoff game. Defensive players fell well short of what was necessary. John Collins, how about a playoff game against Neil Ardley's Solihull Moors? Steph Milek at 2-1 on Saturday. Game management at the basic level was required. Who was leading on the pitch to keep it tight for the next 10 minutes? Duncan Comrie, a professional player going for promotion who can't motivate himself to give 100%, shouldn't be a professional sports person. End of. Gary Wardle, individually not so good enough, both defensively and going forward. But IB has failed to realise transition between the two is the problem. Transition's a word that's used an awful lot these days, Stell, isn't it? I'll give someone a stat because we all know where I am. And of course, goal scoring union, I know where you are, Stell. Of the top 12 teams, only Grimsby, one, have conceded more goals than us. There's a stat for you. Of the top 12 teams in this division, only Grimsby have conceded more. I can see you checking that one, Stell, aren't you?
Torquay, you mean?
Sorry, brain failure. Yeah. I'm glad you're here to put me right. Sorry, yeah. It is only one, though, isn't it? It is only one.
I was nearly scribbling out all my notes here then.
Stell brings some much-needed discipline to my sort of blue sky thinking.
I had a massive panic then for a split second.
Only one. Is that good enough to get promoted, Stell?
No. Obviously, no. I mean, you don't need to be a rocket science to know that's not good enough. We concede too many goals. We have done, well, obviously all season. It's an accumulation of what we conceded all season. But yeah, we've conceded too many goals. And the counter, you could say, well, we if you score enough goals, you can concede plenty because you score more than the opposition. You know, Wrexham had a 6-5 against Dover the other day. You know, a mad game. But that's not the norm for the season. You can't concede the number of goals not so conceding. It's you know, it's not like we've conceded 30 goals too many, but it is regularly throughout the season. We haven't had enough clean sheets.
Yeah.
We've conceded too many soft goals. For once, my friend, what I mean by soft goals is goals where the opposition haven't had to work too hard. You know, goals that are easy. You know, all coaches will tell you every goal's preventable. You know, every goal there's a mistake or multiple mistakes that lead up to any goal. But realistically, there are too many goals conceded. We are too easy to score against. We have been too easy to score against this season, which gives you a problem because you've then got to be more clinical at the other end of the pitch to make up for it if you can't plug them gaps. So again, and I'm always trying to be wary of talking about conceding goals. Well, it's the defence, and scoring goals. Well, that's the attack, because everybody's involved, particularly the way Notts play. Everybody's involved in getting the ball forward and playing and having and scoring goals. But likewise, everybody's then got to do a job out of possession and transition. When the transition, which, like I say, back in my day, was just turnover of possession. It's from being in possession to out of possession. It's that switching on, that immediate reaction. We're in possession, right? This is what we do. We make the pitch big. We've got runners going forward. We know where our next pass is. You know your shape. You know who's around you. You know what your options are. So, oh, somebody's give the ball away. Right, we're out of possession. Close up. Keep it tight. Make sure we've got our runners. Make sure we've got our markers. Can we get in front? Can we hold the opposition up? Very quick decisions get happened in football, and so that involves generally all 10 outfield players, and you need to be on the wavelength. And so to criticise just the defence isn't right. It's the team as a whole. And I didn't see who it was who put about the 8 flair. Would you prefer 8 flair or 8 workhorses, if you like, whatever it was? The beauty of football is that you need your flair players to be able to do a bit of the work nowadays, particularly. And you need your workhorses to have some ability on the ball and to be creative. They can't just be a passenger of, well, he's just a clogger, head it, kick it merchant. You can maybe have 1 or 2, you know, certainly at this level. But to play the way Notts do, and I think we're missing Richard Brindley, and I think we're missing Kyle Cameron, particularly in that ability to bring the ball out and give them that platform from the back of building up and stepping in through the lines, which aids Notts and the way they play so much that they have been missed. But that is, they are both injured, and you have to find a way then. So you've got Alex Lacey and Connor Rawlinson come in, and they've been fine up until Saturday. They got found out massively Saturday amongst the rest of the team. They got hopelessly exposed, but they're part of it as well. So it may not have been any different had Brins and Carl Cameron played, because everything around was so poor everywhere. We were losing battles all over the pitch, so anybody can get exposed. But I do think that with the way Notts play, if you have a day like Saturday, you are susceptible to being exposed, and that's exactly what Torquay did. They exposed this frailty, and it's almost a bitter belief that we give the opposition by conceding goals. Teams will not be scared of playing Notts. We've heard loads of good comments from managers throughout the season about Notts. They're the best footballing team in the division. When they've got the ball, they're the best passing team. They'll pass you off the park. But none of them have said, and rightly so, why would they? None of them have said they don't give you a chance, Notts. You just do not. If you don't take your one chance in a game, you won't score. And that's the 6 and 2 threes of, yes, we need to be more clinical at one end and we need to be more clinical at the other in keeping the ball out. We haven't got that balance right.
Interesting points. David Shorter says defence has been our problem all season and last. We are too open when the opposition have the ball. Colin Metcalf, are we asking players to do too much? They are non-league for a reason, and football needs to be simple at this level. Neil Pike, whilst the margin of defeat was unusual, awful performances have punctuated our season. Even if we win the next 7, we all know that disastrous performance is likely, and that's why I've no real confidence. Gary Wardle, defending from the front, pressing from the back. Both elements need to help each other. David Shorter thought Yarrad could have done better with at least 3 of the goals, although the cover in front of him was awful. Goalkeeper, yeah, let's discuss that a little bit, because that polarises opinion. We have relied heavily on lone goalkeepers this season. We had Patterson, clearly a big fan's favourite, back up at Sunderland. We now have Yaros on loan from Liverpool. Now, on the face of it, that would suggest, although clearly Ian would not say this, that would suggest he is not comfortable with Sam Slocum as his regular number 1. You and I both know, Stel, that when you bring loan players in from higher standard clubs, they normally come with caveats. You need to be playing him X number of games. If you don't play him, we can bring him back. If you don't play him, you've got to pay a higher percentage of his wages. This is, in the modern game, how all loan agreements are structured. And I think various people have pulled up stats that I think in Sam Slocum's last 6 games, he's let 5 in, and in Yaros's, there have been a few heavy defeats. Where are you on the goalkeeper debate?
Well, I'm going to say it's a debate. I think Ian Birchall was happy to have Sam Slocum as a goalkeeper at the club. I think why he's gone out and got lone goalkeepers is because, again, allied to the way that he wants to play, he wants a goalkeeper who is comfortable with the ball at his feet, because he's going to be used as the pivot, the spare man, as a lot of football teams do, to go from one side out to the other side. And I think he's obviously thinks that obviously Nathan Patterson and now Vítězslav Jaros are better with their feet than Sam Slocum. I don't think it's anything to do with goalkeeping ability in terms of catching crosses, saving shots, anything like that. But it is to do with setup of how you want to play in possession of the ball.
But the caveat to that, though, Stel, is understand that, would agree with you totally. But some would say, the goalkeeper is the only player on the pitch allowed to use these. Save shots, all of those sorts of things, not concede goals. That still remains the primary objective of a goalkeeper.
Absolutely. And I don't disagree. And I don't think any manager would disagree with you. Ian Birchall wouldn't disagree with you. I think what he would say is that Vítězslav Jaros has done well with his hands. I don't know who the guy was who said he was at fault for 3 goals on
Yeah, I've
Saturday.
not seen that myself,
I,
to be fair.
I mean, I'll have to have a look at him again, but trying to think, he was hopelessly exposed on Saturday and had no chance with any of them. I don't think. I haven't.
I think part
seen
of the
them.
debate, Stel, that was generated on a show while you were away was that Sam had performed very well, while the team had performed very well and got
Yeah,
results. Yaros was away on international duty, and then we kind of had the debate: should Sam stay in the team because he's done well, and the team have done well? Ordinarily, teams wouldn't be changed, yeah,
yeah,
in recent times, yeah. But Yaros came straight back in, and that I think that was kind of the debate, which is why his, if you want to call it a debate,
right, yeah.
that's why people were discussing it.
Okay, yeah. But again, then the answer to that might lie in the terms of the loan agreement. It might be sort of, if he's back and available, he's in the team. Otherwise, it's either going to cost you or he goes back to Liverpool. He's certainly not been on loan from Liverpool to come on sit on Nott's bench. So, whilst I agree, I'm always an advocate of, if you're playing well, you've got the shirt, you deserve to stay in the team. Then the other side of it, had Yaros done anything wrong to be out of the team? It was international call up, so again, it's a manager's call. It's down to a manager's call and his preference. And all I can see is that the reason of his use of his feet, is the preference of why he sort of goes straight back in and straight in the team. Quite rightly, Sam Slocum didn't do anything wrong. Nothing wrong at all. He's a bit unfortunate, but that happens in football. That, and a goalkeeper is an isolated position on its own. You can't. You can't show any sentiment there. You could, but he's got to make a call. He's got to make a call on one of them, and that's the call he's made. I've got no problems with that. I think I've said many a time how much I rate Sam Slocum as a goalkeeper. So I think we've got 2 good goalkeepers there. I think Vitslav Yaros, with his footwork slightly ahead of Sam's, is why he gets the nod and why he's Ian Bircham's preference.
Okay, thank you. Kells Roberts. So this is a saga, if you like. It's become a saga, hasn't it? It's become a saga, and there have been various rumours about Cal falling out of favour, prompted by Cal not being involved, playing 90 minutes for England C, coming back to train with Notts, and then not being part of the travelling 16. Cal said, I'm fighting my place, fighting for a place in the team. Ian has said there's nothing untowards about this. I probably know more than most, and I think it would be, and I'll choose my words carefully, I think it would be naive to think nothing has gone on. Okay? I think it would be very, very, very naive to think. It is my understanding that something has gone on. I don't think it's massively serious. It would relate to training. But it is what it is. He wasn't involved in the 16 on Saturday. And I guess a lot of people are now going to be discussing after Saturday if he's fit. And with no reason to think he's not fit on the basis he played a full 90 minutes for England C, if we're basing it on that. Should he be brought back into the fold for Friday still? And rest of you, what do you think, everyone? What do we all think? Stel, nice easy one, that. Kells Roberts.
Yeah. Yep. Well, on a purely footballing basis, ability basis, yes, absolutely. But that is with an asterisk caveat. And that asterisk caveat is that I'm not privy to what has gone on, because obviously something quite plainly has gone on.
Yeah.
And whatever that is, I mean, Charlie's saying, on the radio about him being on the naughty step. Well, let's be honest and use our heads a little bit. Ian Birchnell, like any football manager, wants to have his best players available to him, and I think Ian Birchnell would quite gladly say that if it was down to footballing ability, Kells Roberts is one of his better players. along with a lot of other good players. And I know he was quick to talk about Ed Francis not being in the team and Joel Taylor not being in the team, Zach Brunt, players like that. But quite clearly, if it was just about football, he's played Kells Roberts plenty this season. He's spoken well about, he's done well. There's something happened. I don't know what that something is, but something has happened, because no manager cuts their nose off to spite their face, by not playing a key player. No manager would risk their own job unless they had what they thought as genuine reason to do so. And that might be an issue regarding training. That might be an issue regarding personal stuff. I know there was a bit of hoo-ha on Twitter, as social media, was it, that I don't get involved. I mean, I don't really do it. I'm not part of it. But I do, when I say Charlie fills me in on bits like that. So again, some sort of nonsense about stuff I don't know. But as an ex-player, trying to read between the lines, something's gone off. And again, I'm speaking purely, theoretically. I imagine that Cal has maybe done something or said something or acted in a way that has completely alienated his manager, and he's maybe got to get back in his good books. Now, whether that's he's on the naughty step for a game, a couple of games, 3 games, 5 games, or permanently, it'll depend on the severity of what's happened and how, it gets managed. But purely from a football basis, along with, I think, 99% of the fan base, if not more, along with Ian Birchnell and Michael Doyle, will want a fit and driven Kells Roberts to play and give everything for the Notts County cause and for the shirt, which I'm sure he will do. I'm sure he has done, and they'll want his quality. But it's generally something, maybe disciplinary, or I don't know what, but I'm speculating. But this leads to something has happened where, I don't know, standards have not been met, and a manager has got to show. I keep calling managers a head coach, I know, but you've got to show that one player can't be allowed to get away with stuff that other players wouldn't be allowed to. If you want players to play for you, you've got to be strong. I've always said I want strong leadership in everything. I like that. I think players know where they are. I think people know where they are. And I think if it's sometimes you don't like it, that happens. Deal with it. Show what your metal's like. Ian Birchnell's the manager. He gets to make the decisions. He will stand and fall by them decisions, just like every other manager. But he's got to be true to himself and make the decisions he thinks are right. Whether he thinks it'll be right to bring Cal back in on Friday, we'll obviously have to wait and see. But from a purely footballing perspective or a footballing basis, Kells Roberts, without a shadow of a doubt, is certainly good enough. And before the illness thing and the Stockport game aside, was playing well enough to warrant a place in the 16. Now, whether that's a starting berth, we can then go on to a wider argument about him and Ruben and how they play together and what formation suits playing both of them together. That's maybe the next step of the conversation. But in purely ability basis, Cal, it's not in question. It's not a question. He's more than good enough. He's one of the best players in this league when he's on form. But again, not being privy to what's happened. If anything's happened, it's all speculation, of course, but you've got to assume something has happened. I don't know what it is, and I don't know how severe that is. I've heard rumours, but they are just that, and it's not fair to speculate on rumours of what may or may not have happened. But the bottom line I always come back to is no manager doesn't pick the better players to spite themselves. They do it for a reason. What that reason is, some will agree with it, some will disagree with it, but that's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, look, you were a pro for what, best part of 15, 20 years. And so there will have been 101 scrapes, of which probably 80 of them never got out. Yeah, there'll be a few that did.
95% of them never got out.
I don't know, at my time,
Thankfully.
Yeah, I mean, under Martin O'Neill, Leicester were affectionately referred to as a pub team. You know, they're affectionately referred to themselves as a pub team
Mm.
in the way that they approach things. When they crossed the white line on a Saturday, the job got done. During the week, all sorts of shenanigans going on all the time. And you know, my understanding in this particular one, and we don't want to go into detail, is that I think Ian is a very technical coach, demands absolute 100% quality from every player on the training ground, and attaches a huge amount of importance to training. And if you are not at it for training for whatever reason, I think Ian takes that a very dim view of that. Okay. But I guess my point is, and you've kind of you partially started to answer it there, is a manager kind of doesn't want to chop his own nose off to spite his face. But sometimes there are differences where, as managers, head coaches, whatever you want to call them, between the coaching element side of it and then the man managing. Because as a manager of a men's team, you're managing a lot of egos, aren't you? You're managing, if there's 20 players, all 20 players think they should be starting. All 20. So part of the man management skills is trying to like keep people on side and all of those things. And I guess it's, for me, the interesting thing is that we have got a 7-game season to get into the playoffs, then the playoffs. And it's our best chance of going up. I would say we've got a far better chance of going up in the next 2 months than the whole of next season. Potentially, this is a much easier route of doing it. And I can't help but think Kel gives you an added percentage of being able to fulfill that objective. And you'd like to think at some point, sooner rather than later, Kel would be reintroduced into the fold. I mean, he called out, if I remember rightly, Ruben Rodriguez when he first came in. Do you remember? Saying he wasn't training hard enough and all the rest of it. And he dropped him, didn't he, for a couple of games or whatever. Came back firing. Now, I've just read one point about someone saying, well, it's gone too far now. There's a breakdown between manager and player. Not that I'm aware of.
No.
But part of the skill of the manager, rather than the coaching element, is knowing when to bring these players in and all the rest of it, isn't it, at the right time, so that other players don't feel undermined depending what transgression you have and haven't committed.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that you find I found, and I assume it's still similar in football, is that you get fallings out. You get, everybody's at different levels of what's important, what's not so important, but everyone's different. What happens is you have fallings out left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And they are come day, go day. They are here today, gone tomorrow, in 99% of cases. Now, there are cases where, people can hold grudges and all that sort of thing. That's never healthy. That's never the way forward. But it does happen. We'd be naive to say it doesn't. But in most aspects of football, that's why I think it's a very, refined or solitary area compared to other walks of life, to other workplaces, in that there are fallouts, but they're gone. They're generally gone. It might take a couple of days. Players be fighting in training, kicking each other, punching each other. 2 days later, they might sulk for a day or two, but 2 days later, it's forgotten about. It's gone. Something else happening. And with managers and players, it should be exactly the same. It could be a case, and again, we don't know, we're speculating, but it's a case of, Cal, you've let yourself down, you've let whoever down, and for that, you're gonna be punished. You're gonna be left out. You're not gonna be part of it. And now I'm going to throw you the gauntlet, and let's have it right as well. We've got 10 points from 12 up until Saturday.
Absolutely.
So we weren't absolutely spiraling out of control without Cal. Life continues with or without Cal, like it does with no players bigger than a club and all that sort of phraseology. It's only now, after a debacle like Saturday, we're now, well, Cal's got to be brought back in. Of course he has, from a footballing perspective. that's whether Ian Birchnell was willing to sort of say, yeah, you're right to be introduced. Now you've served your time, you've done your punishment. Again, they'll be speaking. It's not like it's not like a childish relationship where you don't talk to your missus for 3 days because you've had words. They'll still speak. They'll still be speaking and saying, look, I think that he'll be telling him, but that's how whatever you've done or whatever has happened, whatever's gone off, I don't like that. He will be telling him, I don't like that. Cal will be putting his side across saying, look, whatever. But they will be speaking. And Cal will be, I hope, and it's always down to the player's reaction and the grit. And just, you're dead right, Paul, just to mention the Ruben thing from whenever it was earlier this season or last season, where, look, he's just not putting it in training. And I'm going to throw you the gauntlet down. I'm going to bring you out the team. Now, how do you react? Do you want to sulk? Do you want to mope about? Or do you want to knuckle down, put a bit more in training and show the manager that you want back in the team, that you can stomach being up for training, that you want to be there for the fight? It's exactly the same with Cal. He's throwing him a gauntlet. How are you going to react to this? How do you like not being in the team for whatever's happened? I'm sure it's not just purely down to he doesn't think we've got he thinks we've got 16 better players. I'm sure that's not the case. But that also, the other side of that coin is that I'm sure he also doesn't think Kells Roberts is up here and untouchable and can do what he likes because he's a million times better than anything else we've got. It's not quite like that. But they will be speaking. They'll both know where each other stands, and it's so a phrase you can't use nowadays, is it? But you've got to take it like a man. You've got to take it on the chin. Agree with it, disagree with it, have words about it, F and Jeff about it, and come to a resolution. You either suck it up and knuckle down and work your way back into the team. And when you get in the team, Cal, show him what you can do and show all of us what you can do, because that's all we want. It's all Ian Birchnell wants, and it's all Kells Roberts wants, is for Notts to be doing well and for Kells Roberts to be playing well, and Ruben and everybody else. We want success for Notts. Cal wants it, Ian Birchnell wants it, but sometimes you clash heads in a dressing room. You spoke about 20 players with 20 egos. I'd argue there's 20 players with 40 egos. You've got Jekyll and Hyde personalities, split personalities, all different sorts of personalities. So it's full of ego, and the egos clash heads. They're like rutting stags, and it won't always be pretty, and it won't always be plain sailing. But you come out the other side of it like men, because you speak about it and you get on with it, and it shows the real character. And I think there is real character in that Notts dressing room. It didn't get shown Saturday. It did not get shown Saturday. But I think as a general rule, there is real character in them players and in that dressing room. And I think there are a few others in there as well, the likes of a Jim O'Brien and a Michael Doyle, who will have plenty to say to Cal and to other players who want to maybe step out or think they're a little bit different or lower the standards or whatever they want to do. But it's all part and parcel of what goes on in a football season. And I say, prior to Saturday, 10 points from 12, everything's okay. 3-0 at Southend. Okay, Cal's not there. Ian Birchnell gives his explanation. Okay, that's fine. But now we've got 5-1 defeat on our hands. Ian Birchnell might think, yeah, okay, I can't afford to leave him out. Or, what was going to bring him back for Kings Lynn anyway? We don't know. So we're all speculating, but I would be massively surprised if Cal wasn't in the 16 on Friday.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And you've got the little thing as well, haven't you? He when he started against Kings Lynn away, do you remember? Was he left wing back? Clearly looked a fish out of water the first 45. Whatever went on in the dressing room at half time, he's back in that more favoured right-hand position, cutting in, hat-trick in 15 minutes. And sometimes it's little hunches like that managers will play, because the only way this saga ends, okay, and let me put it this way, the only way this gets put to bed is when Kel plays. Kel scores, we win a game. And within 24 hours, everything is forgotten about. But at the minute, he's been on the, Charlie, you said, used the phrase the naughty step. He's publicly been on the naughty step for a while now. And I think a lot of people thought he would at least travel to Torquay full week on the training ground. To me, there'd kind of been, if not an olive branch, there'd been just that little sprat thrown out by the coach after the game. We've got a full week in training. Cal will be back in training. I like you think he will be back for Friday. If he's not, that would tend to suggest things are a bit more serious.
Yeah, and also we don't know what happened in that week, the week of training. You know, it's and again, let's not forget Saturday's team was picked on the back of a 3-0 away win without Cal in the 16 the week before. So, you know, I'm one that says if you win, you don't want to make too many changes, irrespective. So, I must admit, you know, notwithstanding the stuff off pitch or whatever's happened off the pitch, I would have put him on the bench because I think, you know, he's this perfect player where you would want to bring off a bench at the very least if you're not going to start him. But that, by the by, that doesn't matter. We're not privy to what's gone off. So again, we've got to judge it. We're not judging anything because we don't know the facts. But you have to, if you're the manager, you have got all the facts. You have got everything in front of you, and you have to make a judgment call as a manager about people and decisions. And again, you've got to have strength of mind and character and belief in your own decisions, because you will stand or fall by them decisions. Nobody will give you any leeway, you know, and nor should you, because you're the one with your head above the parapet. Ian Birchnell is the one. He's the only one at Notts County at this moment in time because he's the man in charge. It's only a manager who ever gets talked about, you know, his job's in danger, if you like. You know, his job, it's 92 Football League managers, and every football manager in the non-league, it's always a manager, never a player that's positions in doubt. So you have got to have total belief in your own decisions. And you know, you'd like to think that we go, do you know what? He's making the decisions based on all the facts for the betterment of Notts County. We might not necessarily agree with it from an outside perspective in footballing terms, but you then have to say, well, maybe there are other things we're not privy to that go, hey, he doesn't want detrimental things to happen to Notts because it could cost him his job eventually. So we'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're exercising your right as a manager to discipline players, if you like, and not show them who's boss. That's not what it's about. But it is, you know, you set the standards at the club, and if you want standards high in training, then the players have to toe the line or they're gone. You know, there's no loyalty in football. If you set the standards in terms of rules or, you know, whatever it might be, then that's it. The players have to follow. You know, like you want to use the war analogy, like a general marching his troops. You can't have troops going off left, right, and centre, attacking and shooting what they like. You've got to. It's the general who's giving the orders, and you either toe the line or you're gone.
Steph Milak asks, Stell, have you ever locked horns with a manager and been left out?
Well, yes, probably without even having to think about it. Yeah.
Go on then.
Well, I once got left out. Do you know what? And this is the most bizarre thing. I don't know if I've said this before. I got left out. I got named on a Friday in the team at a place I was playing. I won't name the manager who it was. Well, no, I'm not going to do that.
The club. What about the club?
Well, no, because that'd give the manager away, wouldn't it? I mean, you wouldn't take Sherlock Holmes to work that out.
Depends how long you were at the club.
The one that stands out, I was named in a team on a Friday when you do your shape and all your free kicks, set pieces, all that sort of thing, corners, defending, attacking, blah, blah, blah. Got named in a team on Friday, came in on the Saturday, and I got pulled into the manager's office. And he said to me, he says, I had a dream last night and I can't get it out of my head. He says, and I'm going to go with another striker. I'm not going to play. I'm going to play 5 in midfield. And he did. I goes, you can't be serious. And he was. And I was on the bench that game and I was absolutely raging for probably about a week afterwards. But yeah, that was that was good. But I didn't get dropped for locking horns. We locked horns afterwards. But Yeah, it happens. It happens. We get over it though. You grow, you live, and everything's good. Yeah.
We're coming to the end of the show, but one thing I want to debate, because it's another hot topic, really, and the question I posed earlier, and I know it's difficult, but where we are right now, 7 games to go, and if you kind of think back to last year, when we were gearing up and going on a bit of a run and getting towards the end of the season, our last 7 games are Kings Lynn at home, Weymouth at home, Dover away, Aldershot away, Dover at home, Altrincham at home. They've won 4 out of 5, by the way, Altrincham. So I'm not quite sure if most people last week, and Maidenhead away, most people last week ranged between 19 and 21 points. So we're going to win 6 or 7. Personally, I'm not being negative because I think we'll make the playoffs. I don't think there's a cat in hell's chance we'll win 6 or 7, just the way it is. Do you think we are better set up, better prepared, or a better team to have a better chance of going up?
Well, the league table and the results would say we're pretty much where we were. Again, I mean, we sort of had this similar sort of conversation a few weeks back, didn't we? And I say that you could make the argument that we play better football now, but I could also just as easily, and particularly after Saturday, make the argument that we're easier to beat. We concede too many goals. So I don't think we've not made massive strides forward. We haven't gone backwards. I think we're sort of, roughly where we were. Now, is that because other clubs have moved forwards in terms of the money? We're not going to have the money discussion again. But what of us? We are in with a chance. We are in with a shout. What we do have is an identity of how we play. And on our day, with the players that we've got, we can beat anybody. And I know you don't like the playoffs being called a lottery, Paul.
Absolutely. Don't you? Did you lose? Did you win any in the playoff stuff? Did you win a few?
Yeah,
Bradford City against us,
obviously, yeah. I'm gonna say I'm not talking about that one again.
Was that down to
won it
luck?
once. Yeah, won it once. You are, sorry.
Was that down to luck you beat us on the day, or do you think?
No. Well, no, that's the difference between luck and a lottery. No, see, no. What I'm saying is that with a lottery, if you think, do you think the playoffs, or you've got the same chance of winning that and getting promoted as you have the league, getting promoted from a league season?
My aversion to when people talk about playoffs or a lottery, or we don't do very well in playoffs. To me, they're excuses. They're making excuses before you start. I personally don't believe penalty shootouts, right, are a lottery or are down to luck. To me, they're down to the players themselves coping, managing stress, being able to strike a ball under pressure. Yes, of course, there's an element of luck.
Well, and that's
but I
it.
think if you start saying, I tell you what I didn't like last year when we lost to Torquay, and Ian made the point, we at 2-2 we were in control, and then it was just Looney Tunes for half an hour in the playoffs, and all a bit of a lottery. That to me ain't. If that's Neil Warnock or Dave Challoner, then I think it's a different set of whatever. That's when I get riled by it. That's when I get riled by it.
Yeah,
I think this team is capable of winning the playoffs.
Yep.
And there is no reason at all why we shouldn't win at Wembley. But a lot of people, and I'm talking fans here, seem to make so many excuses. We can't compete with Wrexham because they've spent a load of money. The division's a lot stronger this year, so we can't reasonably expect to get promoted. Tell that to Halifax. Where did they finish last year? Tell that to Solihull. Where did they finish last year? Boreham Wood, who have fallen apart, but they're certainly a lot higher up the league table than we were. That's what just gets me, if you like. I think there's enough in this group of players to get promoted, and I just wish we'd be a bit more bullish about it at times.
Yeah, well, I'd agree with you on that. Like I said, I've said all the way through that this team are good enough to beat anybody in this division on any given day. The lottery element, and again, we're talking semantics. Like there's an element of a lottery about the playoffs, because if the playoffs is basically a 3-game season, a 3-game cup knockout, and as we know, over 3 games you can get results that they're surprising. But the element of lottery is you're talking about teams that are 1 place or 2 places apart from each other in the league. So very, very, very well matched teams, and it's all about on the day. So you can get team that is 7th getting promoted over teams 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. But over a league season, they've been the worst team out of them. But on a 3-game cup knockout season, whatever you want to call it, the playoffs, if they come good for 3 games, but you're right, it's not you turn up, you win the toss of a coin, you're through. You have to play well, you have to pass the ball. But we're not talking about, Kings Lynn or Dover getting in there. We're talking about teams that are good teams and very evenly matched and fine margins between the teams. So that's the sort of lottery element of it. But Notts, without a shadow of a doubt, can win them playoffs. I think, looking at the league table and looking at the fixtures, I think, dare I say it, I think third's gone. But I still want us to get it. If we're going to get third, we need help from other results, obviously. We need to win 7 games. I don't think we can drop any more points if we want to get third, in my opinion. And even then, I don't think that'll be enough, because I think Halifax and Wrexham will get more than 85 points. But we've got to try and win 7 games. But I don't for 1 second sit here thinking Notts can't win 7 games on the spin against the teams that they're playing against. And it doesn't matter the teams that they're playing against, because they can beat anybody. So if they can do that, and you look back through the results through the season, get in the playoffs, can they win 3 games on the spin? They can definitely do that. But just as they can win, they can't afford a slip up. And we know they can definitely slip up, as they did Saturday, as they have done on a few occasions this season. So there is that unpredictable element to it all. But they've got to still got to try and finish as high up in the table as possible. I personally think third is gone now with Saturday's result, if I'm absolutely honest. I think we need a major, major help in the other results. And I know other teams are playing each other, but you have a look at Halifax's fixtures, you have a look at Wrexham's fixtures, and have a look at Solihull Moor's fixtures, and see if you can make a case for 2 out of them 3 not getting to 85 or 86 points. And say it means Notts winning 7 on the spin to give themselves a chance. But hey, I've been wrong plenty of times before.
Some of those who take defeat very badly Saturday think it's more than a blip. Say we're 6th, we could still drop out the playoffs. Of course, it's a possibility. But do you think that is very unlikely? Ian did make the point in his after-match interview, didn't he, that he felt some players were perhaps thinking had become complacent, that they'd kind of done the job of getting in the playoffs. Others will win all 7. Do you think there's still a chance we could blow it with the playoffs, or do you think our form has been such that we will be in the playoffs?
We will be in the playoffs. I personally don't doubt that, and have never doubted that any time this season. Of course, we could blow it. Of course we could. Until you're mathematically certain of it, you could always blow it. But I don't doubt for a second. What I now doubt is our ability to get third, just because of the other fixtures. We need to win all 7, in my opinion. But again, by not getting third doesn't mean we're not going to get promoted, but it just makes it a little bit harder, because you have to play another game. So then the target has to be, if you can't get third, you've still got to finish or aim to win all 7 games, even if that gets you 4th or 5th, because you then get a home game. And as we know, Notts are better at home than they are statistically away from home. But again, to use a phrase that sort of comes in my line of work, is that the past performance is no guide to future results. So what's gone in the past is only an indicator, no guarantee of what's going to happen in the future. Notts have got the ability in the team to win any game. That includes the potential 10 games that are left in this season. It's highly unlikely they'll win all 10 games, but there's no reason why not, because they're only playing one game at a time and they can win that game in front of them. And that's why a professional mindset is always what's in front of you, not what's coming down the line, what's in front of you. And if they do that, if they use the motivation of the horrendous defeat on Saturday, then I think they could go and win 7 games on the spin. Altrincham, what you say, 4 out of 5 they've won. Great for Altrincham. But if Notts turn up and play, we beat Altrincham. That I don't have any doubt about that. But again, that's the uncertainty of football. It's an if. And this is the inconsistency of National League footballers. It is an if. What Ruben Rodriguez is going to turn up, what Kells Roberts turns up, what any single player, does he turn up and play well? It's they are not robots, footballers. And as much as we put expectations on them and demands and we want it so much, believe me, it's very easy to have a nightmare as a footballer. I've had plenty. And it's not because I've done anything wrong the night before or the day before. It just happens. But by dropping points along the season, they've got themselves to a place now where they can't afford any slip-ups. Just can't afford it. And certainly when they get in the playoffs, as we know, one slip-up, one off day, one bad bit of luck, one whatever, you're gone. You're done. Season over. So it's about getting the job done. It's about being focused, taking each game as it comes, not getting carried away with yourself, not getting too low after Saturday, but using that as your driver, your motivation to go, we ain't letting that happen again. No way. Because your pride, your professional pride, because you're hurt. It's that's how they've got to go. But there were 10 points from 12 before that against decent teams. And we can speculate about the so-called easier games. And they're not easy games. They are, on paper, easier games. But there's nobody with a straight face can tell me you wouldn't have Notts as running over any of the other teams in the playoffs. You just wouldn't. You'd pick Notts every day of the week. And then go, well, do you know what? If we don't get over the line, we don't deserve to get over the line.
On that note, we shall finish for the evening. Thank you, one and all, for listening in. Thank you for all your messages. Thanks, as always, Stell. You will be at Meadow Lane Good Friday?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, just remember, everyone, it's Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, not Saturday. We've got Saturday off. Friday afternoon, Kings Lynn. Stell will be there. I'm sure our Magpie Circle flock will be there. I guess the question on many people's lips is, will Kells Roberts, well, he'll be there, won't he? But will Kells Roberts be either warming the bench or on the pitch? That will be a big question. And I'm sure it will continue to be a talking point for the rest of the week. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Stell. Look forward to catching up again soon. Take care for now.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers all.